Alright guys, welcome back. Central Florida Prepper here. Tonight I'm going to discuss a topic for disaster preparedness that, really should be addressed. That will be asteroids. Asteroids and comets. Alright, sure, everybody wants to just say, pretty much screwed if that happens. There's no way we can ever survive. It took out the dinosaurs. Well, that was a very big one. I believe it was like 10 miles in across. So, yeah, something like that is definitely a planet killer. But when you know it, the planet came back. Alright, so would it extinguish human life? That's possible. Okay. I know they date humankind that was developed much later after that asteroid. So, I don't know. But I know I'm going to do my best to prepare as much as I can, at least have plans. Now, there's a couple things here. Now, we just had that one asteroid come by. It was 187 to 427 feet wide. That's pretty big. Okay. Now, they call this thing a city killer. It said it'd be like if it struck land, it would have been like a nuclear weapon going off in a city. That's it. Game over for that city. Now, this thing came within 45,000 miles of the Earth. Now, to put into perspective, people think, well, 45,000 miles is a good ways off. Alright, take for example our moon. Alright, our moon is 239,000 miles away. This asteroid was only 45,000 miles from Earth. That's pretty freaking close. Alright, that's under half the distance. Well, half the distance, roughly 100,000. So yeah, it was more closer to us. Now, I will be popping up different things here. There is a model that is online. I have it up here for you, how close this impact could have been. Or how close it almost came to be an impact. Now, if this thing would have hit land, sure, it would have destroyed a city. With the size of this, if it did not break up when entering the atmosphere, and that's another thing, most meteors, things like that, break apart before actually hitting land. If it did not do that and hit land, I would definitely be expecting massive earthquakes, very big possibility of debris being knocked into the upper atmosphere, blotting out the sun. Now, do I think it'll be pitch black? No, I believe it would be hazy overcast, like what we see with volcanic activity, things like that, where it's just an overcast day. Now, will it just be a day? No. I believe if an asteroid this size was to hit land, I would say anywhere from a few months, well, yeah, a few months to a couple years that the sun will be blotted out. As far as the intensity we have today, would it eventually go away? Of course it would. Would our temperatures change here on Earth? Yes, drastically. Now, I've read two different types of study on that. Some say the Earth would get superheated, which I'm not really sure if that's possible, because all that dust particle in the atmosphere should actually bounce most of the UV light back to outer space, kind of like the ice caps do. It reflects most of the solar radiation back into outer space. So I definitely would be more of a ice age that actually rolls in, kind of like in the past when, the whole dinosaur thing. Alright, so this is something to plan for, not be scared of, okay? Something to plan for. Alright, as preppers, we plan and prepare. Well, I know many of y'all, well, it was a fluke. It won't ever happen again. There is actually plenty of asteroids, meteors that have entered into Earth. Alright, I do have some video clips for you that I'll be popping up throughout this video. One of them will be the Russian meteor that came down. It was 2013, if I do remember correctly. Now this thing, they said it did break up a lot, and actually I think they actually found meteor particulates around the area, but the majority of it that actually lasted landed into a lake, and from there they were later able to retrieve that. It's like one of the largest meteors intact that they were able to retrieve. Now that thing was just passing by. Alright, when I say passing by, it didn't hit land, it landed in a lake. So I'm hoping that the speed trajectory of that was slow enough to where, you know, the lake slowed it down. Thankfully it didn't hit like bedrock with all that full force, because definitely earthquakes would be happening from something flying in, you know, at 1,500 miles an hour or something like that. But that's just one of the examples of things that fall from the sky. Okay, now there are some things you can do to protect yourself, and no, I'm not going to say stick your head between your knees, if you know what I'm saying. There are ways. Alright, the main first thing to be doing is, as much as I hate to say it, watching the news. Alright, this came at us out of nowhere, basically. If I remember correctly, it said it was coming out of a, we got the locusts out there. It was coming out of the direction of the sun. That's why we weren't able to pick it up till it was right on top of us. But yeah, you can always be checking the NASA website, things like that. And given enough time, they can predict trajectory as far as whereabouts they think this thing is going to hit. Now keep in mind, one of the biggest threats to humans is that the Earth is like 71% covered with water. The face of the Earth is mostly water. So the odds are, by statistic wise, a large asteroid hitting the Earth will be water based. Okay, so people on coastlines, you'll be needing to evacuate and get to mainland areas. There's a lot of maps out there talking about the polar ice caps and things like that that are melting. They're not too worried about icebergs and things that are already in the water, because the majority of the ice is already in the water, so the displacement of the water is going to be the same when those things melt. But the fresh water, the glaciers and things like that, when they melt and rush into the oceans, the ocean levels will rise. Now there are maps projecting what coastlines and things like that with so many meters, how much flooding there's going to be. Now Florida, if I remember correctly, 70 meters if all the ice was to melt on the world, 70-meter sea level rise, the entire state's gone. Most of the eastern seaboard is gone too. Actually, I think all the eastern seaboard is. So yeah, something to think about. So yeah, you definitely want to be moving away from coastal areas. The tsunami in 2004, it was India. It killed like 150,000 people. That's just right there. Imagine a massive impact. And that's not even counting if it actually had enough force to hit bedrock. Alright, if it hits bedrock, the whole world's going to feel this thing, and it's going to be eruptions everywhere. Alright, but if it was enough just to go in real deep and was slow enough to not crack bedrock there, I think would be good as far as just coastal flooding. Now there are plenty of websites out there. One of the things, I think this is number 3 on their list, was moving to a bunker or fortified structure. Yeah, and you know, of course anybody wants to run to a bunker. How many people do you know that has a bunker? How many places that you know of a bunker nearby? How many places have bunkers anymore? Alright, unless you're super rich, and you've got a nice place out there in New Zealand. Although there are a lot of normal citizens all across, well, I'm just going to use America for example. There are a lot of people with their own bunkers and stuff like that, put in their backyards and bug out locations, things of that nature. Yeah, being in a fortified position like that would be a good idea. Could you still make it? Well, yeah. I mean, if it was a water-based one, let's say that it hit, let's say it hit the Gulf of Mexico. All right, Florida's gone. All right, but like my property in Wyoming, it would be okay as long as the super volcano is not activated. Then, it falls into play. Is your location where it's going to be striking at, and you want to move away from those spots. And when it comes down to survival equipment, things like that, one of the first, besides the normal food, water, security, would be medical respirator systems. Even a cloth face mask is better than nothing at all when all that debris and stuff is in the atmosphere all around, especially with a land-based hit. So all that stuff's going to be up in the air floating around. So anyway guys, just something to think about. That asteroid, not meteor, asteroid that shot past Earth was a very close one. Okay, now they said if it hit land, it would have been a city killer. I can't get exactly the information on how big of a city. I mean, is it a small city or is it a freaking large city? Alright, I can't find that information out for you. I do know it will be bad. Will it destroy mankind if that asteroid had hit Earth? No, I don't believe it would have destroyed the world. Would it have affected agricultural things like that? Yes, we would be suffering from it for several years to come. I said a couple months to 2 years. My projection is it'd be 2 to 7 years. I mean, no sense to sugarcoating it. As preppers, though, we try to plan for as many shit hits the fan scenarios that are out there. And I do apologize for these locusts. I know this is going to be loud on this video. I do apologize for that. Nothing I can do about that, though. There's many things we can prepare for, and this is actually one. Okay, now if I know of one coming in, I'm in Central Florida. I'm not near the water, but I have enough knowledge in me and enough understanding about what a water-based impact would be. So yes, I would be bugging out. I would not be sticking around and taking my chances. Alright, a tsunami is a tsunami. Okay, and I could have a kayak, but I don't think it's going to do me any good. Alright, now when everything becomes lakefront property all the way to the Georgia line. So anyway guys, something to think about. My suggestion on this, get you some good radio equipment. That way you can always pull up NOAA. There's no telling about satellite systems. I mean, we're always getting bombarded with the sun, with different type of radiation stuff from the sun. It can affect satellites, stuff like that. An asteroid could take out satellites quick, but hopefully by then NASA will already have everything pinpointed out for us as far as a general location of where they believe it would be hitting. So yeah, that would be the first step, making sure you pay attention to where they're saying it's coming in at and get away from ground zero. Don't be one of those guys that sits there with their camera and waiting for the perfect angle and shot. I just wouldn't recommend it. Alright guys, you take care, and it's kind of a prepping video. It's something I've been thinking about on the last couple of days. And again, I do apologize for not getting this video out to you sooner. I had physical therapy and their transformer had went out or something along those lines. They were actually operating on emergency power for the facility, and they told me when I got there, they told me that they were needing to change out the transformer, that my therapy was going to be getting cut short. Well, I can't drive right now, so when I tried contacting my ride to a new pickup, that was not available for me. So I had to make the long walk back home. And it's hot down here. Alright, now the wife and I do carry EDC bags. water, things like that. It's just basic stuff. Not all UDC bags are completely security related. Having water, having a hat, things like that I could put on while I was walking those miles all the way back made a difference. Alright guys, talk to y'all later, and y'all take care.